Chianua. Everybody calls me Desire. Mm. Control room. A con- Okay. Okay, I'm good. Now my spectacles are fogging up. And Good morning, Namibia, and a blessed Friday to you all, and welcome to a special edition here at the Government Information Center. My name is Shianua Desire Kahiha, and we would like to welcome the panelists that we have in the studio this morning. We are tackling something very special. It is something that the nation was presented with a message by the President at the beginning of the year to motivate, to thank, and to just inspire us as a nation, as he called for a family meeting, as he does every single year. The year 2021 was the year of resilience, but the year 2022 is the year of reimagining. And the panelists that we have in the studio this morning are going to be assisting us in understanding what is the vision behind the theme of the year. We have Ms. Inge Dhamwanikamwe. She is the Presidential Advisor on Constitutional Affairs and Private Sector Interface. Good morning, ma'am, and thank you for being part of the panel this morning. And we also have Dr. Alfred Hengari. He is the Press Secretary in the Office of the President. Good morning, sir, and thank you for being here. Thank you. As you have it there, we've got very, very important people who are well vested in what it is that happens and the runnings of the Office of the President. So they're the best people to help us understand this theme, and we will jump right into it. Maybe Mr. Hengari, you can enlighten us on what it is that, steered us into the direction of having the President theme the year of reimagining. What does it mean, and what does it stand for? How does that translate?
Before I specifically get into the theme for this year, Reimaging, I think it's important for us as Namibians to understand the role of the President, the role of the head of state.
Yeah.
The head of state is a teacher. The head of state is someone who inspires. The head of state is someone who mobilizes the nation in order to coalesce and achieve certain goals. When President Geingob came into office, of course, he's a teacher by profession.
Yeah.
And I think that has been quite evident in the manner in which he speaks to Namibians, through his statements, through his actions, and so on. Now, the question of themes in that process of educating, in that process of inspiring, in that process of mobilizing, becomes extremely important. And as the presidency, we are quite happy with how Namibians have owned up to the themes, how they feel inspired by the themes, how they talk about the themes, at times even in the form of jokes, but also at a very serious level. Now, the year of reimaging should be seen in the context of the past 2 years. In 2020, President Geingob thought about how the year was developing. And he said in his New Year statement that that would be the year of introspection. And elaborated through the New Year statement, as he always does, what the year of introspection would mean for us as Namibians, but also a country that is part of the world. Now, unfortunately, in that year of introspection, when the President said we need to think about ourselves as a nation now, look forward, but also engage critically with ourselves. Now, unfortunately, COVID-19 happened in that year of introspection. So we had a very difficult year with lockdowns, closed borders, and also livelihoods getting affected. 2021, similarly, which the President said is the year of resilience, building on 2020, we faced arguably the most difficult year in our country's history. When the President was reflecting about 2022, early December 2021, I thought about this year as one that should offer opportunities for renewal, for us to reinvent ourselves, for us to look at the future positively. The theme of reimaging, it comes from that backdrop of 2 very difficult years, but with the firm conviction that we are now seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Therefore, as Namibians, in whatever we are doing, in whatever role we are, we need to think about ourselves positively. We need to undertake positive actions in order to develop not only ourselves, because the President believes strongly in the growth of each and every person, because through that we can also grow the country. So the theme, reimaging, which is quite timely in light of where we are coming from, is informed by that vision of us now bottoming out of a crisis, therefore taking the necessary positive actions mentally and also concretely in order to create a better country for ourselves and future generations.
Wow. Well explained there, and it is quite clear in the way that you just explained it that the past 3 themes tend to build on each other. It's like the next step from the previous one. I mean, you look at the theme for 2020, and then you look at the 2021 theme, resilience. Now we are re-imaging what it is that we started off in 2020. So really, it's a build-up from the previous. As we're saying, this is a message that goes out to Namibia to inspire, to show gratitude at the beginning of every single year. So thus, we took to our streets to find out whether the nation knows about the theme for the year and what their take is on it. Let's have a listen.
No, I'm not aware of it. Can the Office of the President tell us more about it?
Yes, I'm aware.
I'm hearing it for the first time, not that I know of, unless if I'm enlightened a bit what it entails.
Yes, I'm aware of that because I've watched his live session on TV.
For me, I don't really understand what the president means, because really we just need we have a problem with the economy, unemployment. So I don't think what's really the plan for the government for this year. So we want to hear, he must come and explain us what about the unemployment, especially the youth.
Yeah, and if me as a member of the public and a very active one for that matter, I'm not aware of it. I'm not quite sure how many of us out there or other Namibian citizens out there are not aware of it. Maybe the Office of the President plus you, the Ministry of Information and Communications Technology, must do more to make people aware of what the President has announced.
Reimaging is basically rebirth, basically turning over a new page. So I think what he wants for us as a country is to turn over a new page and kind of build up, especially with this COVID that has come, kind of build up from that and try to make the country better and pick up the economy and all that. Yes.
As a citizen, it means that as Namibians, we need to do self-introspection. How are we going to rise from COVID pandemic impact on the Namibian economy, as well as the unemployment rate that has been hammered by COVID in terms of especially our tourism industry? How are we going to revive that? And also probably look at unemployment, especially job creations, and then getting the youth involved to do something, People are dropping out of schools. After dropping out of schools, what are you going to do going ahead, you know? Probably you might not be well academically, but sport-wise you might be good. You can see what's happening with our Namibian Football Association and the battles that they are fighting. It's never gonna end. So when is it coming to an end? When are we reviving our economy? So I think the top leadership needs to first look at that.
About unemployment and the economy of our country is clearly going down. So the government must do something.
I think basically with what the world is, or where the world is going to, I think as a country we can look into strengthening our agricultural sector, because I mean food sustainability is one of the biggest things that Namibia needs as a country, which I think will carry us and the economy for many years to come.
The government really needs to put their heads together to invest in sports, especially for the youth. That's the only way we can revive the economy. Especially the stadiums, you know, there you can also see Botswana wants to bring AFCON to Namibia. Are we ready?
The comments from the streets are definitely enlightening. They give us an idea of how far we need to do civic education on different matters that arise from the different offices of government, including the higher office. And it is also heartwarming to know that there are others who do have an idea of what's going on and have been paying attention and actually understand what the different themes have been, what they mean, and what they should mean to them as Namibian citizens. A lot came out from these conversations with, you know, our people on the street. First, it's not being in the know-how of what these different themes mean, and also the issue of unemployment came out quite a lot. I liked the fact that they spoke about revamping, you know, recovery, reboosting. Those were the basic themes that came out from them. Ms. Dhamani Kamwe, if you can maybe speak to us on you know, different categories. And this I'm referring more to our Harambee Prosperity Plan. We've got a second one out now that's currently out, and we do know that this plan has 5 pillars. How do we then look at the theme, but in the context of the 5 pillars that we have?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to clarify the theme for the year. I think the one thing that the declaration of themes does for Namibians, it creates a conversational point for us to begin to reflect collectively as to what this means for us individually and collectively. And every beginning of the year, as individuals, we normally look at ourselves and say, how can we do better this year? Where are we lacking? What we call New Year resolutions. Now, some of us are very good at keeping those resolutions throughout the year and reminding us that this is what we have committed to at the beginning of the year. Some of us are not so good. By the 3rd month, we already lose track of where we are.
Yes.
So it is important that we are here to talk about the theme for the year, which is the reimaging. It provides an opportunity for self-examination as individuals, and then also self-examination as a collective in terms of how are we doing, and is what we are doing going to take us where we want to go. So from that perspective, from the Harambee Prosperity Plan that you have asked about, we have already started asking ourselves. We come off a very difficult year, particularly 2020 and 2021. And we want to re-examine some of the programs and activities that we have put together and see whether, given what we are coming out from and going forward and given the constraints that we have, can we still realistically continue to focus on those activities? Because it's not going to help us if we continue to hit our heads against the wall, the wall will not break. Eventually, we will break.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, we are also re-looking at all the pillars of Harambee Prosperity Plan to make sure that they are aligned to the theme for the year. We are looking pillar by pillar, what activities can we expedite, and what activities can we put on hold, and what activities can we deliver on within the time frames that we have and within the limited resources that we have. So when we're listening to what the members of the public are saying they want to hear from government, what are the plans on the economy, what are the plans that we have on job creation in order to address the issue of unemployment. And so to that effect, we are also looking at our economic recovery plan, which is part of the Harambee Prosperity Plan. There are a number of projects. As you know, Cabinet has prioritized key sectors for development as priority sectors. That is agriculture, housing and land delivery, as well as education. Now, these are all sectors that affects the young people. The agricultural sector is one of the sectors that absorb a lot of young people. Education sector, especially the vocational and training sectors, also absorb a lot of young people. And then obviously in the delivery of land and housing, all those are programs that speaks directly to the needs of the young people. And so we are going to go back to Cabinet to provide an update of the achievements since the last retreat in 2020, and we plan for 2022. We know that government has one of the key projects for its economic recovery is the development of the Southern Corridor. That development of the Southern Corridor is premised on the hydrogen, green hydrogen and ammonia. But there are also other programs and projects within that development concept that are being driven to make sure that we provide jobs for the young people. And one of the first activity that will, in the next 3 months, we'll see movement is the skilling up of people, providing the necessary skills so that the young people can go into this new sector of green hydrogen and ammonia, and scholarships will be provided to a number of Namibian young people to specialize in this area. We'll also begin with the development of the pilot projects to test the concept in several parts of the country. So there will be real activities beginning the end of this quarter that will show that government is committed to beginning the process of economic recovery. It's going to require all of us. I heard also people there saying, what can government do? The theme of the year is asking us individually and collectively to say, what can I do? What role can I play to craft the sort of image that I want to see for my country and for myself? So it is all of us are required to participate actively in the developments and the recovery of our economy.
Okay. Well said. And I think I like the last part that you brought out. The fact that reimaging is not just, it doesn't have, as much as it's a circle, there are different circles within the circle, where you start with yourself, then you start, you move it on to your family, and so on as it ripples onto the bigger circle as a country. Definitely some inspiring pointers that came out there. And I think one of the exciting projects that we are having as the country for this year is the green hydrogen. It's one that is really going to be testing capabilities not just of those that are coming in to explore this, but also of our young people that we have been educating in the science sectors. Where are they, you know? What are their skills, capacities? Where do we need to enhance on those individuals? I'm inspired for the year, I must say. Mr. Hengari, we know that we are a visionary nation, and we have Vision 2030, and we're about 8 years away from it.
Yeah.
And you know, the Vision 2030 projected as, or projects us as a country to be prosperous and an industrialized nation to that level. When we come to this year's theme, how does it align or play into, you know, what we had put down for our Vision 2030?
It's an important step towards that vision, because also when you look at the Harambee Prosperity Plan, which President Geingob introduced at the onset of his presidency, to mobilize the nation around the key challenges that he outlined also during his statement at his inauguration in 2015. The president said that the most immediate challenges facing Namibia were the question of poverty eradication and, of course, inequality. But the president also went further. In order to do that, there's a need to grow the economy for that shared prosperity to occur. And HPP itself, it has been an accelerated impact plan so that we can work better and faster towards realizing Vision 2030. And when you look at the consistency of the themes throughout that period, from the year of planning, the year of implementation, rededication, and so on. These were all articulated with the aim of mobilizing Namibians towards accelerating the work of development in order to realize Vision 2030. Now, the year of reimaging comes at a particularly difficult time because our economy has been affected by COVID-19, jobs have been lost, but throughout that period, Shiano, you would agree with me, and I think Namibians would also agree with us here, that the amount of work that the government put in order to do two things. The president, throughout his COVID-19 public updates, which by themselves were also quite novel initiatives that speak to the importance that the president attaches to communicating with Namibians, to share the message in order to mobilize them. The president focused on two things. Is to protect the health of Namibians, their lives, two, and also to safeguard socio-economic livelihoods. So throughout this COVID-19 crisis, which is not of our making, unfortunately, COVID-19 is a health problem without borders. It came to our country almost 23 months ago or so. Now, so we are working as a collective in order to deal with the challenges induced by COVID-19, which is the immediate priority. And of course, the vision remains. We might not meet some of the targets, but what is important to appreciate as Namibians is the journey we have traveled and the successes we had scored as a country to a point where we are today. We are one of the countries, very few countries, you can count them by one hand in Africa, with a robust social protection system. We roll out old age pension grants. We roll out disability grants. We roll out a school feeding program to learners who are coming from food insecure families. And the total that you have there is about 41% of Namibians are on our social protection system. That's about 1 million. That's quite a consequential figure. But that's not where we want to end. The commitment of President Geingob has always been and shall remain to create more jobs for the majority of Namibians. And of course, the social protection system is also an enabler, because when people are hungry, when learners are hungry, they don't go to school, they drop out of school. So we need to keep them in schools. When when people finish high school and they don't have scholarships, they don't get the opportunity to go to university. So we are doing all these things to create a better tomorrow for the majority of Namibians. And I can assure you that there are very few countries on this continent in particular, when there's a drought, you are on your own. But in Namibia, when there's a drought, you are not on your own. The government comes in and assists wherever possible. Under HPP 1, the Namibian government, which was a very difficult period, as you know, we had the commodity crisis, crash, we also had severe droughts, but during the drought, Namibians get assistance, and under HPP 1, about $2 billion Namibian dollars was spent on assisting Namibians during those periods of drought. So we need to be, of course, critical, but we need to be proud of the type of processes, systems, and institutions we've been able to create over the past 30 years that contribute to effective governance, and effective governance being a basis of socio-economic growth.
Very true, very true. And I mean, we look at it, we have the HPP 1 that came to an end. HPP 2 was developed from, as a result of HPP 1. We had a report on HPP 1, and you know, the Vision 2030 still stands, and I believe all these policies and plans that keep coming up in between is in that mission to try and exacerbate the arrival of to Vision 2030 with the accomplishment of as many possible activities that had been put in place. So it projects us to be prosperous and industrialized nation. I believe that we're on the right track. I mean, we have, you know, hiccups here and there along the way, as any nation would have, especially with events that are not of our control. But the realignment, the constant readjustment, and again, the reimaging is what allows for the continued journey to take place. So I'm grateful. I'm learning a few things today. We do remind you that as our viewers, you're welcome to actually join the conversation here in studio. We have various platforms through which you can do so. You can call us. The area code is 061 for the capital. The number is 400397. 400397. That's the call-in line. You can also find us on Facebook and give us or post your question via our Facebook page. That's Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. On YouTube, our channel handle is MICT Namibia. YouTube channel handle is MICT Namibia. Now, there is, we spoke about how we've got these plans that are in place. We spoke about how we have had events that have taken place, recurring droughts, persistent droughts in some areas that we now were made aware of. For example, yesterday we had a few panelists from the hard-stricken areas of Erongo, Umsati, and so on. We've had recessions that have really hampered our development as a country. How best do we think that Namibians can utilize the conditions of the countries of political stability, and also being known as one of the favorable countries with the most favorable investment policies? How can we use that to our advantage despite the struggles that we have had? I think Ms. Damani can come in on that for us.
Thank you very much. There where you ended, that's a huge advantage, that we have peace and stability and democracy. That's a foundation. So that is a huge advantage that we must build on. I want to go back to the Vision 2030 and to say that currently government is in the process of reviewing progress so far versus the Vision 2030. And we are also in the process of constructing NDP 6, which is the vision that will take us to the destination of 2030. And I think visioning or having a vision, I like to simplify it by saying it's taking a journey from Windhoek to Katima. Now, that is your journey, that your objective you want to reach. Now, on your journey, there will be many things that will happen along that journey. Some of them you have anticipated and you have planned for them. Others you have not anticipated, and therefore they are likely to delay your journey. So when you come across a delay, what do? You don't abandon your journey and say, I will never get there, but somehow you make plans. And that is what these plans, the vision, the NDP 5 and NDP 6 are helping us to adjust those plans. And then we try to accelerate it with the HPP 1 and now HPP 2. So we have a very stable democracy, a stable environment, notwithstanding the intervening independent variables. We, as a nation, we have to constantly, and going back to the theme of the year, the reimaging, we have to re-look and say, how can we achieve our intended objective better, faster, and with the highest impact on the areas where we want to have the impact. So in terms of the current challenges that we are faced with, we want to make sure that we come up with projects that they have high employment creation impact, projects that have that are going to move the needle in terms of the economic growth, economic recovery. And as we look at these projects and the various programs that we have in HPP2 and the ones that we are going to put into NDP6, we hope that by the end of 2030, we would have come much closer to our journey, our vision, than otherwise we would have, despite, as we said, we had 2 years, 2020 and 2021, of an uninvited, very serious enemy in the name of the COVID pandemic. Looking back, we are here, we have survived that. How did we do that? And what more can we do collectively as a nation to continuously remain focused on our journey, which is Vision 2030? And the implementation of our various plans are what we need to improve on critically to make sure that we monitor and evaluate progress. We highlight the areas that are problematic. We manage the risk out of the implementation of our plans on a continuous basis. And to that end, in HPP2 now, we have the Performance Delivery Unit. And this Performance Delivery Unit is monitoring the progress of the implementation of the activities on a quarterly basis. We sit as advisors in the PDU to review that progress. Then we sit with the implementation agencies, the ministries and OMAs, as we call them, and then we say, we are on track or we are off track, and how can we improve the activities where we are off track? What do we need to do? Is it the lack of resources? Is it capacity? Do we need to train the people that are responsible? And if it is financial resources that are preventing us from achieving, how can we learn to do more with less? How can we improve our service delivery to the people within the limits of the resources that we have? So re-imaging and imagining the way that we can improve on the deliveries of services to our people within the limited means that we have is how we can improve on the plans that we have.
Okay. So basic individual, whether it is a company, whether it's an OMA, whether it's a, you know, a private home, it's basically self-improvement in order to ripple that into other areas or spheres of life to the greater vision as a nation. I think this is what we're looking at here on trying to take advantage of the good that we have
If
as
you
a
have
country.
a society that is negative, what do you get? If you have negative people, they don't see the benefit of the peace and stability they have. What do they reinforce?
Yeah.
The Bible says, as you think, so you are.
Yes.
So if you have a positive mindset, you are likely to have positive result.
Exactly.
And if you have positive result, you are likely to achieve your vision.
Yeah, exactly. And that taps into prosperity.
Yeah.
Very good.
I just wanted to add a bit to what my colleague had said, and also responding in part to your question. There are those, and they are in a minority without doubt. They want to believe the worst of our country, which we are not.
Yeah.
The facts are clear. We are one of the best governed countries in Africa. All the indicators tell us that. There are those who want to believe that by brandishing every day a negative headline, we need to, they're forcing in a negative image of ourselves. But that's not what we are as Namibians.
Yeah, yeah.
There are those who want to say that corruption is endemic in Namibia. When we say no, it is not endemic, they don't want to hear that. But it's a fact. Corruption in Namibia is not endemic. It is not an existential threat to our democracy. It is not. We have a governance infrastructure that deals with these things. As someone recently said, there's corruption everywhere, and the president uses that example. But what is important is what you do with it.
Yeah.
Is how your institutions and your processes respond to that.
Yes.
In Namibia, there are clear cases of high officials, high-level officials, who have been arrested because of acts of corruption or alleged acts of corruption.
Yes.
The president has acted decisively on the basis of allegations. In 2018, we should not forget that the president requested ministers in selected ministries to explain allegations. And that dossier was submitted to the Anti-Corruption Commission. We should also not forget a very important example that some of our colleagues in the media don't want to talk about. There was an inflated airport tender. President Geingob cancelled that tender because it was inflated by several billion Namibian dollars. Therefore, Namibian taxpayers and citizens were saved of those dollars that they were about to be deprived. So we are actively working to improve the governance architecture of this country, as my colleague, Madam Inge Damon had mentioned. Beyond what we see, there's a lot of work that the president is engaging on a daily basis, because the president is also an excellent administrator. Therefore, beyond the speech, he goes back, reviews documents, take tangible actions in order to improve the fortunes of our country.
It's clear here. The message is, what you see is not necessarily where it ends.
Exactly.
The message is, you will have our leaders coming out and giving a speech, but there's a lot that goes into the information and the facts that are presented in that speech. There's work. It's like where you have the ground on top and you've got molars running around through channels underground. So the work is continuing. Things are being done. Even though we don't feel them, they are being put in place. As we said that we have platforms through which you can engage us, you can add your views and comments. You can also pose questions to the two panelists that we have in studio today. And I believe we have a comment from our Facebook platform. And this is coming from Salatiel Hamatwi. It's coming from Salatiel Hamatwi, and Hamatwi is simply asking, what happened to the year of retrospect and accountability? Access to information bill? And I think that is a question that he's asking with regards to how far have these plans been taken? Where is this bill? Where is it right now in its process? And also basically just an overview of the year of retrospect, which I believe was the year 2020. No? 2020? Yes, it was the year of introspection. That was the year 2020 because last year was the year of resilience. So maybe Salatiel just wants to have a quick overview of that. Maybe Ms. Dhamani can give us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Salatiel, for that question. If you look at HPP 2, the first pillar is effective governance. And when you go into the effective governance pillar, the first goal is accountability and transparency.
Yeah.
And when you go under that sub-pillar, there are a number of listed sub-activities to which government commits in terms of ensuring accountability and transparency.
Yeah.
And I think we all agree that this administration has been the most transparent government where everything that happens is covered publicly by the media. What the media then goes and inform the citizen, that's something else. We have also ensured that we update all the website of the various ministries and agencies of government so that critical information is placed on the website, including the performance contracts of ministers, so that the citizen can know what government is committing to. We have also, in terms of ensuring accountability and transparency, over the period, held a number of town hall meetings in all the regions where President and Cabinet has engaged the citizens for many hours and for many days, answering questions and explaining progress on a number of activities. I saw also there was a question about the access to information bill. That is one of the bills that is also part of Pillar 1 of HPP 1, where government has committed that during this period, will ensure that that bill is promulgated. We have had a number of engagement with the sponsoring ministry, which is the Ministry of Information and Telecommunication Technology. The bill went to Parliament, it was withdrawn, and is now in the process of reviewing some of the clauses to ensure that there is conformity between the policy and the law. So it is definitely in progress. It's a commitment that we, for sure, during the HP period, we want to see that bill being promulgated. And in terms of fighting corruption, the second national anti-corruption strategy was launched, was approved. It's also part of the indicators that we have under Pillar 1 of Harambee Prosperity Plan. And I think what the citizens sometimes don't know is that when we develop these plans and strategies, it's a collective process, it's a consultative process. And in fact, in the drafting of that strategy, there is a national steering committee comprised of government, the civil society, and the private sector. And they are the ones who are going to oversee and ensure the implementation of those activities. So I think it is A lot of work is being done and has been done. It is for us as citizens also to listen to events like this so that we educate ourselves and we know what is happening. And we can also ask ourselves, how can I contribute? What can I do to help in the fighting of corruption?
Yeah.
Corruption, as my colleagues say, some people would like to see that it is endemic. I have been to some African countries, one specific African country where my relative passed away. For us to get the death certificate, we have to pay. For the official consent to sign the birth certificate, we had to pay. For us to go to the mortuary to go and view and identify him, we have to pay.
Wow.
So that is how corruption is then endemic. Whenever you have to go and obtain a service at the Ministry of Home Affairs to get your ID or to get a passport, you will not get it unless you pay somebody. That is what endemic is. And maybe we wish that corruption can be endemic because that is the kind of mind frame that we want to set for ourselves. But it is not, and we shouldn't even wish that corruption become endemic in this country because corruption robs the nation of resources that could otherwise be applied for other developments.
I think what you're saying right now, that's actually a dangerous place to be. I mean, where you have to literally pay for every little service that is supposed to be provided for under government services, which are for free. So really, I think we should find ourselves to be blessed where we are. Yes, Mr. Ngari?
Yeah, I think just to when corruption is endemic, my colleague explained quite well. Recently, there was a survey that was carried out on corruption.
Yeah.
And Namibia and Cabo Verde were the two countries that topped the list when it comes to citizens who are saying, we don't need to pay a bribe to access public services. So there's a difference between the reality and the perception.
Yes.
So when you ask people, do you think Ngari is corrupt? They are likely to say, yes, he's corrupt, because maybe he's in government. But when they are asked, but did Ngari approach you? They say, no, he did not. So that's the difference between perception and reality. So the reality of Namibia is that corruption is not endemic. I think if this country had those levels of corruptions, which many would want to believe or to want to force on the population, we would not have the type of role we have now in international affairs. President Gengop is highly solicited to participate in summits, to participate in meetings, because Namibia is a country that enjoys a high level of prestige. And a country that is corrupt cannot enjoy that type of prestige. So I think at times we just need to look at things in very basic formulas. And when you do that, you realize that certain things just don't add up. We remain committed. There's no question about it. President Gengop repeats that all the time, that wherever there's corruption, development suffers. Therefore, in light of all these strategies that my colleague spoke about under Pillar 1, effective governance, which the President takes particular interest in because he understands that the basis of a successful country is governance.
Very much. Very much. I think with a few things that you stated now, it brings us to the next question. For example, last year, government approved the setting up of the center that we have, the Government Information Center. And this was basically, amongst other things, to communicate and counter misinformation, disinformation, debunking the myths, and also just to bring forth government projects, programs, and activities. Now, I think in light of what you just said, and also looking at the different themes that we continue to have from the Office of the President, are there particular platforms, programs that you are engaged in or maybe planning to engage in to try and have a similar, structure that would assist in trying to, turn around perceptions?
I think let me take a go at it. When the head of state delivers a State of the Nation address, Namibians should take particular interest in that because we have various platforms through which we roll out that message. When the president delivers a New Year's message, it is a highly anticipated message. Therefore, Namibians should take an interest in listening to that message because they elected the president and he is the expression of their sovereignty. And I also believe strongly that the media has a responsibility to communicate that message to the public. It's for the public to dissect and to discuss. And I'm glad to see that on the year of Reimaging, you interviewed 4 people, and 2 were fully aware of the year of Reimaging. One was moderately aware, and the last one was completely unaware. So that's a good indication. But it does not mean that we don't have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do to take the message of government, of the president, to the Namibian people. On our social media sites as the presidency, we have about 600,000 followers. That's across all the sites. And whenever the president delivers a statement, his meetings, we put them out there. So we encourage more Namibians to consult those sites because they are valuable platforms of information. And I do believe that the Government Information Center, which came at a very delicate time in our history, will continue to play an important role in terms of disseminating the message to the Namibian people, because Namibians want to know what their government is doing for them. There's no question about that, because they are engaged in their democracy, they are participating, so we definitely have the obligation to do better in terms of taking information to the people. And that's the challenge. Earlier this week, the president challenged all of us in the presidency to improve and to do better and to take services to the people. Next week, the president will open a cabinet, and I'm confident that the president will also carry a message of hope, of inspiration, but most importantly, hard work.
Well, definitely, it's a good message to have, especially on this Friday morning, to be able to divulge into some of these things that actually resonate hope, you know, and prosperity, just from basic questions that we asked today. I think the message that we can take away from the theme in itself, the year of Reimaging, it sounds simple. And it sounds very more on an artistic perspective, if one is to narrow our thought about it. But it actually touches a huge sphere if we think about it in what the essence of the theme is. We are a young nation. We are one that is very vibrant, despite of our struggles and tribulations that we continue to go through. At the age of 30 plus, Namibia is doing well. I think this is the one thing that we need to pat ourselves on our backs for. We are doing well. We are fighting through the struggles where other countries could not state what we can state at this age of our independence. So really, as Namibians, we need to give ourselves a round of applause. We also need to remember that whatever prosperity that we would like to see for our country, it starts with ourselves. It starts with our perception. It starts with our thoughts, and hence, reimaging. There is nothing that you can achieve without setting a vision and a goal, and you need to be able to image that goal within your head before you actually put plans in place to take it on and take it forth. So I think these are what the themes tend to try and drive within us, to create that vision for us as Namibians, and also to create a theme and a pillar through which we can all move in one direction, as our Harambee Prosperity Plan continues to teach us that we are all under one house that needs to be able to operate with one vision, with one goal. So I would like to thank our panelists this morning, that is Ms. Inge Dhamani-Kamwe, as well as Dr. Alfred Hengari, for giving us an insight, making time to come and help us speak to the Namibian nation about the theme that our President, Dr. Hage Geingob, set out the beginning of the year and the pace for the year. But that is where we end this morning's session. It was a special edition. We would like to thank you very much for joining us, for your comments, for your call-ins. We really appreciate that. From myself, Shianua Desire Kahiha, until we meet again, have a good one.